1, 2, 3.
See, every time we record our podcast, I do something wrong because I'm not coordinated, and Christine always laughs at me, and so we started calling it the clap and cackle, which I think is either a venereal disease or a pub somewhere in northern England. And I said it. The clap and cackle, we did it for our live studio audience.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yes.
Okay, so hi everyone. For our listeners, we are recording our podcast live from Wilkes University in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Or is it Wilkes-Barre? Or is it Wilkes-Barre? It's a mystery.
It's a mystery. Everyone has a different answer for me. I don't know the answer to this.
Who suggests Wilkes-Barre? You can say it out loud.
Barry. I'm going with Barry. It's more fun. It's like blueberry, Wilkes-Barre. It sounds cute.
Yeah.
Wilkes-Barre. I know.
Where's the Y? It's silent and also invisible. Yeah. So my name is Christine Renee Miller. I'm on the playwriting faculty here at Wilkes with my co-host Jessica Godot on the nonfiction.
Yeah, I teach nonfiction here.
Yeah.
Good job. Yes, that's correct.
I know her very well. And we are pleased to be with the wonderful Maureen Corrigan. Before I go into why we love Maureen and who she is and all of that, we wanted to also just share why we are doing this podcast in general. The podcast is The Beautiful in Band. Jessica can explain why we started it.
Yeah, so according to the American Library Association, the challenges of unique titles surged 65% in 2023 over the same period in 2022. So 65% in 1 year. That means 4,240 unique book titles were targeted for censorship last year. So part of why we started this podcast is as writers, as teachers, as actors, we wanted to understand more about what was happening now and also in times past. We look at books, plays, and films now and throughout history. This is not the first time that we've had censorship in our country, and we are incredibly excited to talk to Maureen Corrigan about that today. But we felt like this is a podcast to talk about what is being lost, to talk about how we got here as a nation, to spend some time really digging into this. And it has become for us a love letter to writing, to books, to literature, to librarians, to teachers, to professors, to so many of us who are involved in the written word and trying to tell stories to others. So this has been a real joy for us, and we are incredibly fangirly excited to welcome Maureen Corrigan.
Yes. Okay, here's a little bit about Maureen. Maureen Corrigan, a book critic for NPR's Fresh Air, is the Nikki and Jamie Grant Distinguished Professor of Practice in Literary Criticism at Georgetown University. She is an associate editor of and contributor to Mystery and Suspense Writers, published by Scribner, and the winner of the 1999 Edgar Award for Criticism, presented by the Mystery Writers for America. For some reason, I just picture like a lot of very specific looking writers, mystery writers.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Trench coats.
Yeah. The spectacled. Okay. In 2019, she was awarded the Nona Balakian Citation for Excellence in Reviewing by the National Book Critics Circle. Maureen served also as a juror for the 2012 Pulitzer Prize in Fiction. No big deal. Her book, So We Read On, How the Great Gatsby Came to Be and Why It Endures, was published by Little Brown in September 2014, and her memoir, Leave Me Alone, I'm Reading, was published in 2005. She's a reviewer and columnist for the Washington Post's Book World. She serves on the advisory panel of the American Heritage Dictionary, and she chaired the Mystery and Suspense Judges panel of the Los Angeles Times Book Prize. And I think my only criticism of you, Maureen, is that you're just not doing enough.
Maureen, I would love for you to tell us first about the class that you taught on banned works. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, 2 years ago, the Great Courses Company, 4 years ago, the Great Courses Company that does, kind of those online courses for people in everything from cooking to literature to how to buy a house, approached me and said, would you like to do a course for us on banned books? And I said, oh, that's interesting, yeah, because of course it's an issue we're all thinking about. And they said, we had this idea that it should be a historical course, so start with the Inquisition and go up to critical race theory. And I said, okay, yeah, a lot I could learn, I'm sure. And they said, 24 lectures, get going. Yeah.
No, I was just wondering if there were 24 books that you did over that course, or were there just a ton?
It was a mixture, 24 books, challenges, like 1974, Kanawha County, West Virginia. It's studied, if you study educational history, this is a seminal case of book banning. One person, the wife of the local minister, challenged the new syllabi that were dictated by the state. The state of West Virginia said, we want a more, we would say these days, inclusive, they said diverse syllabus, so they had James Baldwin, Allen Ginsberg, even Eldridge Cleaver, Soul on Ice, that gets put on for the high school syllabi. One woman challenges it. Look this up when you go home on Wikipedia. This argument over what the kids in this school system should read explodes into a violent battle where over 4,000 kids are kept home from school on the first day of school. School buses are attacked by rocks and bullets, the kids who are going into school. A school building is dynamited. There are bombs planted at 2 other buildings. And it really is a forerunner of much of what we're experiencing today. It breaks down along class lines. Mostly the people who keep their kids home from school don't have anything beyond a high school education if they have that. They're suspicious of these books coming in. Violence. So it only stops when the man who planted the dynamite at one of the local schools was arrested. But one person starts it, and you see that again and again and again in challenges to public library holdings. One person will keep bringing that challenge. One person will stand up at a school board meeting, and the amount of energy that drains public library staff, school staff, having to defend those books is incredible. And also, to finish connecting the dot, it also, I think, accounts for something we were talking about before we started this show, kind of the silent disappearance of books. Because if you are already overworked as a librarian, are you really going to order genderqueer for your holding? Do you really want to get into that? Well, we hope the answer is yes, but to ask people who are already working to the max to constantly be doing extra to defend these books, it's unrealistic.
That's right. And a lot of these people aren't, they weren't expecting to be at the center of these wars, these culture wars, nor are they equipped really. As we joked in one of our episodes, they just really love the Dewey Decimal System. And that's not really the thing that that's not a strong weapon.
Have you ever talked to a librarian and they're like, I like to read?
Yeah.
Like, not like, I decided I'd like to be a frontline worker in the largest cultural war we're having currently. One of the things I like to say all the time is that libraries are the honeybees of a working democracy. That if we're...
It's a great phrase.
Thank you. I'm afraid I'm taking it from somebody because I say it and I'm like, I don't know, because I like it so much, I'm afraid that I stole it. So if somebody ever comes to me and is like, somebody else said it, maybe I heard it.
Expect that it will turn up in one of my reviews.
Yeah, okay, great. Please take it. Listen, I love it. Yeah, and I would love to hear you talk. I mean, I think that's such a great framework for us. So often we feel like things have never been as bad as they are now because we're in our current moment. If you don't mind going all the way back to the Inquisition, thank you so much, you guys, to the audience, for being here for 6 hours for our podcast. times that have felt as tumultuous in this, and what is similar and what is different?
Individual feelings. And in fact, I know he's not your favorite, but F. Scott Fitzgerald, right, comes out.
We will let you have some.
Okay, thank you, because the rest of this is going to be about F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Great.
1934, he comes out with Tender is the Night.
Yeah.
And he gets slammed. A famous review.
Yeah.
Philip Roth, the Communist Party journal, The Daily Worker, reviews it and has nothing but contempt for the fact that Fitzgerald is writing a novel about wealthy people on the Riviera in 1934, one of the worst years of the Depression. And the famous line is, he directly addresses Fitzgerald in the review, "You can't hide from a hurricane under a beach umbrella." So there's a real contempt for fiction that isn't somehow social, doesn't have social commentary to it. So I feel like this is very much that same time, and then of course the fiction that is, and nonfiction that is like your new book, socially engaged, is also they're going to be the books that are going to be banned or challenged.
Yeah, I was going to challenge you with a very gentle quibble. That I feel so often that nonfiction, and I mean as someone who has come to nonfiction since 2017, it is what used to be purely quote-unquote journalism and what has become activist journalism, those lines have blurred so thoroughly that some of the older journalists, I know are some journalists who came up in a different time, often kind of say, well, that's not really journalism because you have to be objective. And yet what I find so fascinating is taking journalistic ideas but making sure that I'm including the voices of people who are often underrepresented, or that we're centering it in a different sort of way, that somehow becomes activist journalism, which I find really fascinating. That's a word that I'm proud to use, but I know can also be kind of a complicated word.
I think you have to take the work of art, you have to think about what it's offering, and then is what it's offering worth it, and does it succeed?
Yeah, I think that's really remarkable that those books have been chosen, that they're experimental, and that kind of changes the scope and the perspective of what is considered interesting work, right? And that's a little bit of what I get concerned of with the banning of so many books, that maybe some of these authors, they're not the famous Fitzgeralds or whatnot, right? Of today, and what that does to their reputation, and how we're not able to have access to some of these, new and interesting ways of seeing things. Have you seen some of the things that Jessica and I have talked about? Is that if you hear of a banned book and therefore the sales are going to jump through the roof, but that's not necessarily the case at all. And have you experienced some of this?
It's funny when you think about, authors who aren't so well known and their books are banned and then they disappear. I guess they've disappeared, because I can't give you an example of that.
Yeah.
But like you, I think about last year when Mouse was banned in Tennessee, and that book had been out for 40 years.
Yeah.
What do we call it? Graphic
novel.
Graphic memoir.
Yeah, graphic memoir.
Graphic
It's
memoir.
beautiful.
And it's banned, and it jumps to the top of the Amazon bestseller list. Mark Twain had a great quote when Huck Finn was banned in whatever it was, 1860s or so. And he heard that the Brooklyn Public Library had banned it for coarse language. And he writes to his publisher, that'll sell another 25,000 copies for sure. So people, I think, rightly think that. One of the revelations for me when I did the course was the first banned book in America that we know about.
What was it?
It's called, it's by Thomas Morton, and it's called The New English Canaan. And I know you've all read it, right?
Yeah, we read it several times.
Yeah, you haven't because the banning was so effective.